Welcome to Meta Mystics, where you don't know what you don't know. Tonight, first of all, tonight is the live show, and if you're listening to this and you're wondering why you're not here on a Wednesday night at 8 or 9 o'clock, sometimes, they vary with the times, but if you're wondering, I'm not doing anything on a Wednesday night, why am I not there for that kind of conversation? Come and check out patreon.com/metamystics. That link is down in the show notes below. Really helps support the show, and it gives you access to all the live shows. So definitely bang for the buck. But with that being said, tonight is a special night. Tonight we have Ricky Rivera. So welcome to the show, my good dude.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. Hi to everybody watching at home.
Hell yeah, dude. It's going to be a fun night. This was actually created because of a fun little ditty, and I'll kind of give a little bit of a background here to the initiates, as I like to call them. So I made a post on Instagram, and I was just like, one day there's going to be Christians that will understand that their beliefs are actually more of like a mythology rather than a religion. And whenever they understand that it's mythology, then they're going to come asking the mystics and the spiritual people and people like that. And there's going to be a lot of questions, and there's going to be a lot of wondering what's going on. And my dude right here just responded, and he goes, one day you're gonna die, wake up in hell, and have eternal regret. And which I said, oh, please, let's talk about this. So that's how all this started. Just out of curiosity, you were talking a little bit earlier about how before you kind of gave yourself over to Christianity, you were into New Age, right? And could you tell a little bit about maybe the things that you were into? How serious of a seeking was it to you?
Yeah. Before that was pretty funny how this came to be. I feel like you cut a promo like a wrestler, and not responded. I came from backstage, ran towards the ring, cut my own little promo. But that's, any wrestling fans out there?
Hey, I went to WrestleMania this past year, so I'm a big wrestling fan.
No, I'm jealous, bro. I'm jealous. I don't know. It's like a lot. I don't know where you want me to begin, bro.
Let's start. You said that that at one point in time you were kind of into New Age, but before all of that, were you like born into like a Christian household? Were your parents trying to raise you up in the church?
Oh yeah, so I was raised Catholic. How mostly all Hispanic households are, and we used to go to church and all that every Sunday. But it never really clicked with me, man. You'd go. They'd read you from the Bible. The deacon, give you the body of Christ and blood. You had to get confirmation. You had to get baptized, all that good stuff. But it never resonated with me. Like I never, you're a kid, so you're not paying attention, bro. You're not, I just never understood whatever they were talking about, and the whole confession thing. Like I get what that means, but I just never understood how you have to confess yourself to another man, to another human, Like I had to get into a little closet and tell a man how many times I've played with myself or how many times I said the N-word, stuff like that. Yeah. But my theory is like, how come you have access and I don't? Like what? Like, are you like the middleman or something? No disrespect. That's how I always saw it. So you know what? This is not for me. I didn't like say, hey, I'm gonna step away. I just stopped going. I just never like had the devotion for it. And plus, bro, I feel like religion is just rules, like a checklist. If you're not doing this and this and that, you're a bad person. You're going to hell. Kind of like what I said, but I'm trolling, bro. But yeah. And again, I apologize. But that's what. So I feel like a lot of people turn away from God because they've been hurt by the church and by people who say they're Christians or like they're God from, what I'm saying? Like they're
like God's chosen.
Yes, yes, yes. But yet they're hypocrites. You know, they're out cheating on their wives. They're doing such and such. Um, so I turned away, bro. So I, lived my life. Once I turned, uh, well, let me back up, bro. Sorry, I'm all over the place, but I was raised by a single mother. Um, so from the age of 7, my dad, he left, he just dipped. And I felt like uh, my life just kind of like went like a different trajectory after that, just like a lot of struggle, a lot of resistance. So we ended up getting evicted from our home and we ended up moving with my grandma. She took us in. And my grandpa, he used to have like a stack of books, and he had a book about conspiracies. He had one about the Loch Ness monster, Bigfoot, stuff like that, and that really caught my attention. They had pictures of UFOs, Loch Ness monster, uh, Bigfoot. So that intrigued me, and I just kept, you know, reading books about that, and I really wanted to know about Bigfoot. I'm a big fan of Bigfoot.
I don't know.
But
Who is
yeah,
it?
as I know, right? This guy needs to show himself. Um,
Just out of curiosity, like through, and we'll go back to this point, but through like a Catholic or a Christian kind of lens, how did they view the cryptids such as Bigfoot and Loch Ness monster and whatever, any kind of cryptids? Like what do they view it as? Is it demonic or is it not exist or what do you think?
I would. Well, there's certain families who don't even celebrate Halloween, which is I get now, but at the time I didn't understand. But in my household, bro, they didn't care, bro. I was watching South Park when I was like 8 years old, and watching wrestling and like watching horror movies, and it was encouraged, bro. Like nobody cares. Like, well, in my family, like they weren't devout Catholics, like what I'm saying. Like they would just go to church every Sunday, but it was sort of like a reset. Oh, you go Sunday or you confess and you get to do it all over again. Um, but as the time went on, I grew older. I moved out and I met a lady, and we before that, I'm sorry, bro, I'm all over the place, but I'm just trying to get to the point where, like, yes, I was really called towards like manifestation and like the the power of visualization. I'm sorry, I hope I said that right. Like just visualizing what I want and making it happen, just like
Yeah.
writing it down and just like um what's that called? That's power of
Yeah, just
visualization.
trying to manifest things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The secret, as some might call it.
Mm-hmm. And uh just trying to do things my way, just not even asking God for stuff, not praying, just praying to the universe or whatever. I didn't know what I was praying for, bro. I just thought this is what I want. I'm gonna manifest it. Then I started reading about angel numbers, and once I discovered angel numbers, I felt like they were everywhere I looked, without even looking for them on license plates, clocks, billboards, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's a sign." It's I get that little dopamine rush, like, yes, like, I'm manifesting this. This is happening. Like it's a sign from my guides, but nothing was happening, bro. Like nothing, like nothing was. Maybe I didn't manifest hard enough. Like I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it didn't work out for me. And then I met my ex wife, who, bro, that really changed my life because she really took me down further because she introduced me into like psychedelics and like tarot reading, Reiki. Um, so um,
And did that whenever you were kind of going down those alleys with the tarot cards and the psychedelics and all the weird synchronistic stuff with the seeing the numerology and the angel numbers and stuff like that, did that worry you at all? Was it something that you couldn't fully grasp or really put into practice or really visualize what was going on? Or was it something that was like, these people are saying this, so I guess I'll kind of follow it kind of deal?
Well, it's because I was in love, man. You get influenced, like especially from a woman. You get what's that? You get
We're weak. We're weak to the women, dude. I know.
yeah, dude. You get trans. You fall for it, bro. Like, not saying like a trap, but like you fall for her, and like, oh, I agree with whatever you're saying. It makes sense, and uh, hopefully I answered your question right. But at the time, also like artists that I would listen to, like they would promote it, and like it was almost like a fashion thing. It was like aesthetic in a way, and I feel that's another reason I was doing it. Because it looked cool. It goes against what society and religion and whatever they're trying to control me, and trying to tell me what to do, and so it's kind of like the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's kind of
so
like rebelling against the culture, essentially.
Yeah. I've been doing that my whole life, bro. Just to this day, like somebody says, "Oh, you should watch Breaking Bad. You should watch Stranger Things." Bro, I don't watch anything you tell me. just because y'all are doing it, I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, I feel like that's one of the reasons that pushed me towards that. And yeah, bro, I remember just like eating mushrooms and like just staring myself in the mirror and just hoping my face melted and hoping, I see something, or I go outside and stare at stars and freaking try to like communicate with aliens and shit, and just like trying to see something, like, man, show me something, but nothing would ever happen, and maybe because I'm short and gay or something, but
yeah,
they never cared, bro. They never abducted me and never took me.
All right, so you had all these experiences and nothing was really happening as a result. So what then? You and the ex-wife decide to split, and then what was it that kind of brought you back to Christianity?
So before COVID started, I watched this documentary. It was called Above Majestic. And they talked about everything, bro. Reptilians, aliens, like the elites, Illuminati, and all that. And bro, that was, I used to love watching. I still dabble in stuff like that, but
yeah, I think that was about MJ12, the Majestic 12. Is that what you're talking about?
I think so. Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah. With David Wilcock and Steven Greer and
R.I.P.
I forgot. Yes, R.I.P. to them. To him. I don't know
Right.
if Greer's still alive. But yeah, bro. So COVID happened, and I watched that documentary, and they briefly mentioned Aleister Crowley. They briefly mentioned him, and I wanted to know more about this guy. And I started reading into him. Start reading into his works, and how he tried like he would practice sex magic and rituals and to manifest. And bro, it's kind of like TMI, but I remember like doing fornication. I would not even be into it. I would just try to be in my head like, I want this, I want that, I want this to happen. Like I would try to manifest that energy between me and her to like create a new reality.
Yeah, the sex magic, where basically you think about what you're trying to manifest, and as soon as you're about to orgasm, you try and really crystallize it in your mind.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm reading into this guy, and I see that he summoned a demon, and he drew it, and that shit just looked exactly like an alien, like a gray alien. And he named it Lamb. I don't know if you know about this. Pretty sure you do.
Oh yeah.
And bro, I feel like that was like a switch in my mind. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Like I had to like, really think about like, damn, bro. Like, what if aliens are actually demons, and what if they're deceiving us? And bro, I went down a spiral, and I started looking into hell. Like I would just like watch videos about hell testimonies and like people who died and gone to hell. And I remember when I was watching one of those, my wife at the time, she came home and she saw me watching that, and she told me, she asked me, "Oh, what am I watching?" And I told her, And right away, she was just like, hell's not real. Like she just dismissed it right away. I'm just like, but how do you know? And she's like, I just know. And I'm like, well, how do you know? Like, we just didn't, like, she didn't, I don't know. I just didn't, the feeling of like someone not being open to a different perspective or like to a different reality, I guess you can say, it kind of, it rubbed me the wrong way. And I feel like that's kind of like when we strayed apart, bro, because of just, I don't know, I just started believing in something different. And and this is not happening week after week. This is like over time, this
Sure.
is not happening right away. And I don't know, man, maybe like a year or two later, like I'm just still, living my life, whatever. Doing comedy, just trying to, get my life together or whatever. And I just kept hearing this voice. Like it's gonna sound kind of gay, but I just kept hearing this voice, bro. Just like, get a Bible, open the Bible. You know, I do city. I do comedy in Houston. Shout out Houston. Where you from, bro?
I actually just moved from Houston. I live in right outside of Baton Rouge now in Louisiana.
Oh, okay, nice. Um, uh, yeah, bro. So like, I order a Bible from Amazon. It gets to the house, and our house has Buddha all over the walls. There's crystals everywhere, incense. So you can just imagine, you know, bringing a Bible into the house and everything's just there. And she just, she's not a bad person. I'm just saying, like, the belief system, like our different beliefs, how we just kind of like
Contradicting each other. Yeah.
yes. And that created conflict. Because I try to like, I don't know, I just try to show her what I was dabbling in, and she didn't want to look into it. And that kind of like, I don't know, just shut me off, just shut me out, just not. You didn't try to even look into this. You just so set in one way, and that's it. Which is, I don't know. I feel like as a person, you need to be constantly learning and evolving. And so, I order a Bible, bro. I'm just living my life. I read it sometimes, but not dedicated. And I just had this since a kid. I just always had this feeling of unworthiness, this feeling of like I ain't shit. Like I don't want to be alive anymore. Like I'm not suicidal, but just like there's days where you don't want to be here no more. You ask yourself, well, why am I even here? Like why? Like what's the point? Why was I even born? I'm a piece of shit, Jonathan. Like why am I here? Um. So when you do comedy, you can take notes on stage or whatever. But I used to have like a little set list, and I started writing prayers behind it. So I would say, Lord Jesus, thank you for comedy. Bless me and bless the crowd. Thank you for comedy. So I will put it in my back pocket. And bro, I remember like I would just do that every night. Every night I'd do comedy. And when you do comedy, they basically give you free alcohol. So I became an alcoholic. So I would drive home and I'd be super drunk. But I remember I'd be like, God, show yourself to me. Or like, like testing him, like, which is, I don't feel like it's a good thing to do, but I just, come on, are you real? Like, show yourself to me. And one night I was just at a red light and I looked over to a bumper sticker and it said, Jesus is always with you. And something so simple, people might say, well, that's a coincidence or whatever, but I've never seen that car before. It's 2 or 3 in the morning, nobody's around. And I see that sticker and I got very emotional, and
hey, you asked for a sign and you got it.
Yeah, that's so yeah, brother, I get home and I just, I pray like God, if you're real, reveal yourself to me, like show me the truth. Like, am I supposed to be here? Like, what am I doing? Like, is this relationship for me? Like, am I in the right spot? Like, just basically something like that. And bro, I kid you not. Not even a week later, I find out my ex is cheating on me. And it's crazy because that happened a week after I prayed that. And I know it was a week after because that same night that I prayed that, I remember taking a picture of that prayer of my set list and I took a screenshot of it. So I'm able to like to do the little timeline thing. But I didn't know it was a week apart till I looked back into my screenshots. But I just felt like I prayed that. And you know, it's crazy. They say be careful what you pray for because it's gonna happen. And boom, that happened, bro. Like it kind of like I feel like God, well, I believe God took off the blindfold from my eyes and just revealed the truth to me, even though it was painful. And I felt like after that, it was just, you know, everything just, I lost everything, Jonathan. I lost my marriage. I don't see my kid as much anymore. I had to co-parent now. I lost my car. Bro, I lost a lot, bro. Like I lost basically my whole life, my identity in a sense. All because I decided to follow Christ, you know? And it wasn't well received in my home. She wasn't about that. And I remember Jesus talked about that. He says, I will bring divisions into homes. I can't tell you the exact verse, but
Yeah, I know what you're referring to.
so I just, man, I gave it up, bro. I just, after that happened, I'm not gonna lie to you, you know, like it wasn't all, I mean, life isn't perfect, you know how, if I'm talking too much, you can also interject. I don't want to like
No,
just
no,
keep
please.
babbling.
I'm interested in your story.
Um, yeah, brother. So, you know, I lose my home, I lose everything. I'm sorry, my mind went blank. Yeah, bro, I just, you know, I just, damn, bro, after all that happened, obviously bro, I'm rock bottom. I'm, you know, going out every night, self-sabotaging, slurring on stage, you know, not even taking comedy serious. I'm just depressed, brother. Like I don't want to be alive. I want to kill myself. There were times where I'll freaking leave the club, the comedy club, drunk, be on the highway, just close my eyes and just fucking press on the gas. And then I see a Raising Canes and just pulled over. And, yeah, I'll probably try it again tomorrow, you know? But
Shout out to Canes. I
basically,
love that place.
yes. Uh, yeah, brother, like I just didn't want to be alive, bro. I just didn't, when all that happened, I just like, man, like I kind of regretted, like, damn, why did I pray for that? You know, but at the same time, like the truth hurts though. Like, but even though it hurts, the truth is love, I feel like, you know, I believe, you know, and God showed that to me. And I started just, um, just started seeing things in a different perspective. Didn't like I said, this is not happening right away, back to back. This is just over time. You know, you start just the pain, like it just changes you. You know, like you go to the gym, you know what I'm saying, like you're in pain lifting weights, and you grow from that. And this pain that I went through, I feel like it just gave me a different perspective on humans and how 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 I was. I'm trying to make this make sense. How I didn't have God in my life. So when you don't have God in your life and you get into a relationship, you put that person on a pedestal. That person becomes your God. Y'all become each other's gods. And like when y'all fail each other, you know, it's like very transactional. Like, man, like you ain't shit. You can't do this for me. I don't need you no more. But we're both broken human beings. So we don't give each other grace, you know, like because we're not Christ centered. Like before Christ, I used to think that way. I used to like not give people grace. Like, oh, you're a piece of shit, Jonathan. You did that to me, bro. Get out of my face, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, you fell to me, dude. Get out of here, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you're a human. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect, and I forgive you. You know, like you would forgive me, like out of
Yeah.
love.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing.
And once that happened, once I started seeing it that way, I hope this is all making sense. I hope I'm not all over the place.
No, I'm following. Yeah, you're good.
Uh, so once I started seeing it from that angle, like man, like how can you love somebody? How can you have a relationship if you don't have a relationship with the thing that's love, which is God? God is love. So how can you practice love and you don't know God? It's just you think you're in love, but you're probably just like how I was, like very lustful and the sex is good. And yeah, you have chemistry, but chemistry fades away, bro. Feelings, they're fleeing. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna they come and go. And when you don't have God in that in a relationship or in your life, like you don't know how to love people because you're broken. You're it's like being a tablet. You don't have a Wi-Fi signal. How can you be a service to somebody?
Yeah, you can't
Um,
access the internet or the divine, so to say.
mhm. um, so yeah, man, I feel like that's uh,
So you kind of went through tribulation a little bit there once you discovered that God was real, that Jesus was real. It caused a little bit of discomfort within your relationship, ultimately led to you guys splitting up. And ever since that, have you found, like, are you still kind of going through the tribulations?
like give me an example.
Like, so obviously whenever you and your ex mother of, or mother of your kid kind of broke up, right? Like it seemed like it really sucked. Like I'm
Mhm.
sure that, you were just talking about how you were going to the club and, you were getting free drinks and you were driving home all shit faced and everything, kind of just losing the will. Did that, like your relationship not working out, almost diminish your belief, or did it enhance it eventually?
Right afterwards, just like anybody else, you ask like why is this happening to me? Because just like I mentioned as a young age, like man, like uh abandoned by my father, you know. So I'm already feeling like I ain't shit, like I'm unworthiness, like I'm not worth anything. You grow up with that, like you know. And by the way, like I'm saying all this stuff, I'm not a victim. So I hope nobody listening and just like, oh, poor me. Like I'm just sharing my testimony. Um, because yeah, I grew up that way, bro. Like just feeling unworthy. Just I had a very tough grandpa. You know, who he meant well, but a lot of tough love, a lot of like just verbal abuse, like a lot of like instead of I look at my son and I can never repeat things that were told to me at that age. You know, like you're a kid, you're supposed to be building somebody up, not telling them they're stupid, gay, and retarded because they don't know how to mow the lawn right. You know, like stuff like that. Or hey, go hang yourself. You ain't shit. You know. So I grew up with this low self esteem. I feel like I'm pretty sure people can relate. And growing up that way, I feel like that's how I fell into like just wanting validation and just not knowing who I am. I don't have an identity. So, like I said, like the new age is very it was very appealing because the aesthetic of it, the feeling of being in control. Like, yes, I'm manifesting this. I'm seeing signs. It's quick, you know, as in like, oh, give me a sign, and I see your like I told you, I see a license plate 111. Hey, that's my sign. That's a confirmation. Whatever I was thinking about, I should go do that. You know, it's like very fast, like very like um. So that's I say that to say because I feel having that low self worth and just feeling like I didn't know who I was. I was just willing to follow anything just to feel something. So when I met my ex, she gave me that. She showed me that, which I was already getting into that. But once I met her, like, well, it just opened a whole nother.
you
Uh,
you held her up in the position that you felt that you were always lacking.
I guess you can say that. I just I, I bring up my relationship because um it because when I Christianity now to me, I don't even consider myself a Christian. because I don't even go to church. I just I listen to a lot of Christian stuff. I read the Bible. I'm still learning how to read the Bible. Right? Because back then it used to feel like homework. But I bring up relationship because I have a relationship with Jesus. So I never saw it that way. People think it's religion, but I believe it's relationship with your father. So if I don't have that relationship with my father, how am I supposed to like lead in any relationship? Or like how am I supposed to serve or like behave in it and or have a relationship if I don't have one with the most important thing, which is God. So that's why I bring that up. So with the whole low self esteem and no identity, I would just let people disrespect me. Like I would ignore red flags and put up with disrespect and just a lot of bad stuff that I wouldn't put up with today. But then I would ask myself, like, why do I put up with all this stuff? Like, am I stupid? Like why? Like, but then you look back and you're like, wow, it's because, like I told you had a low self esteem, no identity. Um,
So
and
basically,
plus
like
we're
you found uh basically like a wholeness to kind of fill the void and to answer some of your questions, to kind of give you a direction moving forward, where before you didn't really have a generalized direction. Your dad left at a young age, and you felt like you were always disrespected. You didn't really know like what the point of all of this was, even if that's what you're going to be relegated to. And and you were able to find that there were answers within Christianity spiritually.
yes.
Okay.
Um, uh, yes. I guess I'm saying what I have to say. Is it I didn't have an identity when I met her, or just like any other girl in the past, who I would let like disrespect me or you ignore you, put up with a lot of bullshit. Um, because I didn't know who I was. But now that I've been redeemed and restored by Christ, I know who I am. He gave me a new identity, my true identity, because I put myself in situations like those because I was sinning. Um, I know people hate that word, sin and all that, but lust was a big problem to me, bro. It still is. I still battle it. Uh, but that I feel like lust. I believe lust. It was like a curse on my family, like on my generational thing, like a trauma thing. Because my dad was a real poon hound. Like he would just, what I'm saying, just cheat on my mom and just be with different women. I heard after he left us, he started another family and left them too. Just perpetuating the whole, just keeping it going, the cycle of just trauma and just just keeping the hurt going through lust. So I put up with all that disrespect from women because I was lusting. I'm thinking with my penis. I'm not thinking with my brain or my brain or heart. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Hey, we ain't nothing but
But
mammals.
yeah, dude. Uh, so yeah, I end up in these situations because I'm sinning and I'm doing things my way, and I ask myself like, damn, like how could this happen to me? But in reality, like we all have free will. It's my fault. Like I had to take responsibility in that. That um, what was that say?
He said, having
Having
thoughts on the wrong head. Damn it, boy.
exactly, exactly, dude. Um, I hope this makes sense, bro. I'm trying to like say stuff and then tie it back around.
No,
Point.
I feel like I understand what you're saying. And I feel like it's probably very relatable to a lot of people who may have experienced somewhat of a rougher upbringing with not really a whole lot of direction, and then finally getting fed up and wondering what the actual direction is. Because if there really ain't a direction, then what is the entire point of all of this? Like, we always want some kind of guidance. What is the proper way to go? What's the proper way to live? And it's interesting because I kind of went through my own crisis like that, making certain decisions, wondering if they're right, and trying to understand, like, am I supposed to go with the way that the culture goes? Am I supposed to go with the way everybody else kind of handles politics and family and spirituality and all of this other kind of stuff? Or is there I just wanted to know what the absolute truth was, and I didn't want to just jump in line with what everybody else was doing. That was kind of my thing. So actually growing up, I wasn't in the church. We literally, nobody in my family, none of my friends, none of my friends' parents, nobody was into religion. Never, dude, I didn't even know what Jesus was, let alone know that he was a person until I was like 12 or 13 years old. Legit, that's how non-talked about it was. And it's not because everybody was satanic or anything like that. It was just, there wasn't really a whole lot of religious people where I grew up. You would do a little prayer for Easter and Thanksgiving and Christmas, before you have your meal and stuff like that. But for the most part, we never went to church, and it was never really talked about. So, I kind of was a little blind as to which direction on where to go. But looking back at it, I'm very thankful that I wasn't introduced to a lot of this spiritual stuff or any religion until I was ready to fully comprehend and fully understand. And that way I can make a decision without just kind of falling back on what was home to me, if that makes sense, And so for the longest time, I didn't know anything. And so what happened was I got really curious, wanted to know the direction of life, and wanted to get more spiritual because I noticed that there were a lot of weird synchronicities that were beginning to happen, and it felt very spiritual. Like, I felt like there was, I don't know, call it communication from the other side. Maybe it's God, maybe it's aliens, maybe it's angels, maybe it's ancestors. I had no idea. I had questions, and I was searching for answers. And of course, a lot of people, especially within the United States, maybe you will, the first place that you're going to really look into is the most common thing, which is Christianity, right? So I started going to a Christian church, and I went for an entire year. And I tell you what, I understand why people get down with it, because throughout that entire year, I was seeing synchronicity after synchronicity. I was feeling in touch with the other side. I was praying to Jesus. I was praying to God. I was reading the Bible every day religiously because I felt that I found something that worked, and I understood it, and I was comprehending it. And so I was like, all right, well, this is changing my life. And as a result, I actually like my life more now. It's more enjoyable. You wake up and you don't have that heaviness on you. You don't have these questions anymore, because literally the Bible's full of answers. It's answers and rules, it feels like, right? And at that time is exactly what I needed. And so, like I said, I went every day for an entire year, but being that I wasn't raised in it, it allowed me to look at it objectively rather than subjectively, right? And through that lens, I was able to say, all right, people are all going around and they're saying that this is the only way, that there is no other way, that this is the right way, and basically all the other shit is fake, or it's it's not real, or it's the wrong way, or something like that. To be honest, bro, I viewed Christianity as magic because I saw it for what it was. And like I said, I was seeing the signs and the synchronicities, and I felt like exactly what I prayed for would come to life, dude. It was crazy. I remember being, legit shocked every single day that I prayed. Like, the craziest things, like, and it was always so weird too, because I would go and pray, and we would do prayers with my daughter every night before bed. And I always thought that it was so strange that every time I did a prayer, I yawned. It was always like a yawn that always came with the prayer. And I thought, man, I wonder, I hope that's not disrespectful to God. I hope he doesn't think that I'm like, these prayers or whatever are boring to me or anything like that. And lo and behold, you don't know what the fuck to think. And so lo and behold, I end up finding out that that's kind of like a spiritual thing, that is how you know that God is with you or something like that during a prayer. That's one way to be able to tell anyway. That's what I hear. And so, but I got to a point where I was like, okay, I know that this stuff works and I get why everybody's on that train. I really do. But if this is really the only way, I'm going to prove that it's the only way. That was my thought, right? I'm going to prove that it's the only way because I looked at it for the magic that it was, right? And maybe that's the wrong way of looking at it, but that's how I looked at it. So then I go on this journey, bro. And literally over the past 3-4 years, 5-6 years, really, I have been trying to discover all of the world's religions, all of the spiritualities, looking into ancient Egypt and looking into, all of the Greek texts and the philosophical texts and the Platonistic texts and looking into meditation and transcendental meditation, hypnosis, looking into spiritual teachers such as Alan Watts and Dolores Cannon and Terence McKenna and all of these amazing people who were able to look at the world in a certain way that kind of brought it to life even more without necessarily the lens of religion. And I thought, all right, well, let me try to look into that. And so then, of course, I start getting into tarot cards and other forms of divination and getting into deeper forms of meditation and learning about, manifestation and whatnot. And the one thing that really brought it full circle to me, I was really trying to understand, how does all of it work? Because it all does. To me, anyway, that's what I was experiencing, that no matter which lens I viewed through the world, I could see how it works and I could practice it. And I could almost prove that it works, right? At least to myself, if to nobody else. And so through all of that, I was like, all right, well, if all of it works, there has to be some kind of truth to all this. There has to be something. And so I've been on this journey of trying to find the foundation of why it all works. Because if essentially what we're doing is what I did was I put everything into a bowl. And what I decided to do was take a sifter and just try and sift out the truth all at the bottom, right? And that's honestly what this entire show is all about. And then, God rest his soul, a great teacher came to me and it came to the show. And his name was Optimistic Banks. Rest in peace. He died back a couple days after Christmas last year, and he taught me the idea of oneness, that everything is one, which is essentially non-duality, right? The way that a lot of people, spiritual, new age, religious, a lot of people will look at themselves as separate from God, that God is all powerful and I'm just lucky enough to be graced by him. Like I'm on his good side, thank God, right? Like that's how a lot of people might look at it. But I found truth in non-duality. So if in non-duality, and honestly, I brought up a couple of things that I wanted to bring up as far as religion goes, specifically Christianity, that really point to a non-duality. So whenever I say non-duality, I say, if God is everything, would you agree that God is everything? Just throw that out there real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. You say that God is everything, and there's actually there's
creator of all.
Exactly. And there's actually the things that he's called, it's the three omnis, right? So you have omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, right? That's what God is known as. So omnipotent is all powerful, omniscient is all knowing, and omnipresent means he's everywhere, right? Or it's everywhere, whatever, I don't care. So if that's the case, if God is not only all powerful, all knowing, and everywhere, then that, to me, I could be wrong, but to me, that points to there is nothing else in all of existence other than God. That's the idea of this oneness. That's the idea of non-duality, that essentially God is putting on a show for himself through the lens of each one of us individuals, almost wearing us as avatars. And I say us as if like we're not that too. But the idea is that all of creation and everything outside of creation and everything that was ever thought, everything is God. Now, why I bring all that up is because within the Bible, in speaking on omnipotence, which is the all-powerful, you have Jeremiah chapter 32, verse 17, where he goes, "Ah, Lord God, it is you who have made the heavens and the earth by your great power and by your outstretched arms. Nothing is too hard for you." Then you got Matthew 19:26, where it says, "But Jesus looked at them and said, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible." Kind of pointing to the all-powerful omnipotence of God, right? Let's see what else here. Then you got the omnipresence, right? And I looked up the exact definition of omnipresence just so I'm not conflating some ideas here. The exact definition of omnipresence is that it's present everywhere simultaneously. Present everywhere at the same time, right? Which and it goes farther and it says present in all places at the same time. And then it even mentions the omnipresent Jehovah or Yahweh or God, however you call it, right? So if God is everywhere and everything, if he is the Alpha and the Omega, how could he not be you? That's kind of the way that I've, kind of looked at it. And so I went a little bit farther and, it's a real brain fuck once you start thinking about these things because, we are humans almost looking through human eyes and human senses and trying to discover the truth about something that is far beyond our reach of comprehension, right? Like it is so far beyond what our minds are even capable of understanding about how everything exists collectively as a unit, right? Like that whole idea of non-duality, it really it threw a wrench into my entire mind, dude. And so I just obsessed about it and I wanted to know a little bit more about it. So let's go farther. Omniscience. So omniscience is the property of possessing maximal knowledge. So omnipotent means having virtually unlimited authority or influence or being all-powerful. It is often used to describe a deity, particularly in monotheistic religions such as Christianity, indicating that God has ultimate power over all things. What's interesting is that in order to be omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, you would have to have a God that exists outside of time, outside of the dimension of time. And they've discovered that the fourth dimension itself. So we live in the third dimension, right? In the fourth dimension, you have you see time as a physical construct. So just to break that down here for a second. Right now, we see time as passing moments, right? Like there's 5 minutes ago, there's 5 minutes from now, there's 5 years ago, 5 years from now.
We see it as linear, but it's not really linear.
It's not really linear, right? Like according to God, it's all right now. There is no such thing as yesterday. There's no such thing as 5 minutes ago. The shit that was happening 5,000 years ago is happening right now according to something that exists outside of time, right? So even if God only existed in the fourth dimension, that means that God would be able to look at time almost as if it is a page on a book, right? Like he ain't got to wait, 10 years to see the progress of 10 years. He can just flip forward a couple of pages, be like, oh yeah, this is what his life's going to be like in 10 years. That simple, right? And a good way of seeing that, I felt like, was that movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey. Because he goes and he gets sucked into a wormhole and lo and behold, he goes into like the fourth dimension and he's inside of this tesseract and he's able to see time as a physical dimension, as a physical time, right? So I try and apply that to God because if God is everywhere, everything and everyone, then he would have to be able to see through that lens, right? Another thing. So there's God that exists outside of time. Then there's, so if God exists outside of time, therefore God sees the beginning, the middle, and the end of all history at once. Okay. So you're like, all right, I could get behind that. That's not that crazy. And according to the Bible, that's omnipresent, that's omnipotent, that's omniscient. Sure, right? However, where it starts to get a little fucky is whenever you got the idea of the creation of Lucifer, right? Right? Like, if you create something and you exist outside of time, then that means that you essentially wrote the story, right? Like, there is nothing in your mind that could ever be out of order. You are the creator of time. You're the creator of all things. You're creator of all characters. You're creator of all rules, right? So we are essentially bits of data within the video game of God, if you want to look at it like that. And God is able to see itself as the video game. Kind of look at it like that for a second. So, and this was kind of my question though. So before creating Lucifer, God already knew that Lucifer would rebel. Before creating any human, God already knew that every choice that person would make. And God knew who would ultimately be saved and who would not. And yet God created them anyway. So let me ask you this. If God sees outside of time and knows exactly what his creation is going to be before it's ever, manifested into the physical dimension, into the dimension of linear time, or at least perceived linearly, then why would God create a story of a person who will inevitably fail and not follow him and then damn that creation to all of eternity? It's almost like, it almost kind of sounds sadistic, if you look at it from that lens. And so these are some of my questions that I have, because I feel like a lot of humans out here, we're kind of looking at God as if, yes, everybody can agree that God's not human, right? That God transcends humanity, God transcends all of this. But whenever we start actually looking through the lens of all the things that God transcends, how is it possible that he exists outside of time, yet people surprise him? That doesn't make any sense. How is it possible that a being that exists outside of time, sees across all dimensions, knows how stories are going to go from beginning to end, yet people let him down? That makes no fucking sense. That's like if you wrote a story, right? If you wrote a story and you like, I don't know. I'm not going to get too weird about it. Basically, my point is that like...
Get weird, brother. I think I'm following you. Like, you basically... Well, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm following.
So I'm going to keep going here for a second.
Yeah.
So there is this one problem that a lot of philosophers will bring up in regards to Christianity, and it's called the problem of cultural contingency within religion, okay? And by the way, I'm not an atheist. I don't want you to think that. I'm just saying I don't put baby in the corner. I don't put God in a box. I'm not looking at it like that. So if God is timeless, omniscient, and speaking for all humanity across all eras, why do so many religious rules appear tailored to the culture and assumptions of a specific time and place? So I'll give you a couple of examples here. So, and this is one of the philosophies against religion. And it'll cause you to contemplate. It definitely made me contemplate. And I'm just bringing it up to try and, I know that there's a lot of religious people out there that will say, well, how is it possible that these people don't get it? And I want you to see, I can't speak for everybody, obviously. Like I'm one individual, but at least why I'm not necessarily in line with religion is because there are way too many questions that can't be answered. And I'm sorry, apologetics will never answer any question that I have. It just won't happen. Those are essentially people that like make up their own story as to why the rules are the way they are. No, if it's not written, I don't care. That's kind of the way I look at it. Unless it's philosophical, sure. But anyway, so examples about this problem of cultural contingency, which I thought were interesting, is that rules about slavery appear in ancient texts rather than an outright condemnation of slavery. So, point being, if you are God that transcends all time, not just the moment that you're talking to those people back in, 100 BC or 100 AD, I'm talking about you exist beyond, from year beginning all the way to year end of humanity, right? Yet for some reason, you speak in a language that is to a specific culture at a specific time using phrases that are commonly accepted, such as slavery, right? And so I thought that was kind of strange. Why would there not be a condemnation of slavery? Because inevitably, that's what we came to do. We came to condemn slavery. We know today, definitely slavery is bad, but back in the day, you are literally speaking to God, and yet somehow God is like, well, look, if you're going to do slavery, do it this way. It's kind of strange. So that's one of the things. Here's another one. Rules about women often reflect ancient patriarchal societies, which is strange because, you look into most religions in general, a lot of Abrahamic religions for sure, or really all the Abrahamic religions, almost put women second, right? Like even Adam came first and Eve came from one of Adam's ribs, almost to say that God decided to create man first and then saw that man was lonely and then decided to create a woman, which, by the way, if you're God and you see time from beginning to end, it is, and I read the whole book of the beginning, right, of the Bible, and I just couldn't comprehend how God couldn't understand why Adam was lonely. He couldn't understand that, right? It was almost like what do you mean? I gave you this perfect garden. I gave you everything that you could possibly want, and yet you're unhappy with what I give you? And I thought, man, that is so strange. You're the beginning and you're the fucking Alpha and Omega. What do you mean you don't know already, right? It doesn't make any sense. And so in regards to that, just as far as women are created almost as second-class citizens. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and, be a cuck for the women by any means. I'm not a feminist or a femboy or any of that bullshit. I'm just saying if we're talking about equal for everybody, and if we're all equal in God's eyes, then why would God favor one over the other, whether it is, sex or skin color, culture, it doesn't matter, right? Like it should all, like we're all God's creation. How could he possibly have a favorite? It makes no sense to me mathematically. Another one here, So you got the rules. There are rules in the Bible about kings, livestock, inheritance, ritual purity, and tribal warfare that fit literally the ancient Near East in the Middle East very well. So, with saying that, it's almost like God created rules specific for people in the Middle East at that specific time. Almost like all rules that God created just so happened to be perfect for those people 2,000 plus years ago. It was very time specific as far as the flavor of the rules, right? So as far as kings, literally God said that kings are essentially gods on earth. He called them Elohim of earth, essentially, like other Elohim, which I thought was a very interesting word in the beginning, in Genesis. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word earlier, but in Genesis, literally the first couple of sentences within the Bible says, in the beginning, Elohim created. That's some of the original translations from Greek and whatnot before it got translated to God. It was understood as Elohim, which just looking at the term at its roots, the Elohim is actually a plural because it's a plural of a word. Instead of saying a person, it's like saying people, right? And so Elohim, the singular version of Elohim is actually, there is a word for it. It's called Eloha. So you're like, wait a second. In the beginning, a group of individuals created, and maybe there's a oneness, and I'm not trying to get too weird with it, but I thought that it was really strange about how God even called kings of earth Elohim, right? So you're like, okay, that's That's kind of strange. Would he also call presidents Elohim? Would he also call, like certain rulers in other countries also gods on earth? I mean, maybe he was just trying to be generous with that word. I don't know. But either way. So you got that. Very little is actually said about issues that would affect billions of future humans, such as democracy, artificial intelligence, nuclear weapons, genetic engineering, or even any mention of the internet. Now, I know that people kind of get all up in arms about prophecy, right? Like, look at Jesus, he fulfilled all of these prophecies and all this kind of stuff. You know what would have sold me on the Bible? If there was ever one mention of the internet. You know what I mean? Like, you're literally talking about an all-knowing God. Why is there not any mention of any of the things that I just talked about? No mention of artificial intelligence, no mention of nuclear weapons, no mention of the internet or any of the things that we have going on right now. It was a God that was speaking to the people of that time, and to me, nobody else. So, it's very, very old in that way. It's almost as if God didn't understand that time would continue. It's very stuck in time. It's frozen in time. And I'm not even just talking about some of the words that are used, but through the lens in which, things are understood. My thing is that I don't know. I have a lot of questions about all of this. I can continue. Do you have any questions on that? Maybe I sound like a crazy person. I don't know.
No, that's good stuff, man. I like going though. I like going like different doorways. But the thing you talked about how you yawn when you pray or like when you read the Bible, I feel the same way, bro. I get sleepy. I get ADHD. I get to check my phone. I honestly believe that's spiritual warfare. That's your flesh. Your flesh is like weighing you down. It doesn't want you to feed your spirit when you like talk to God and to take in His word. And the thing about
here's an interesting way of looking at that, though. Just I'm not trying to go against that, but it may be an alternative view. The way I kind of saw that, not necessarily as spiritual warfare, like the demons were trying to hold me down, because if you look at the etymology of the root of the word spirit, right? Literally, it means the breath, right? So you're getting your breath almost pushed even farther out whenever you yawn, right? Like the reason why we yawn is because we're not getting enough oxygen into our body. So our body says, all right, well, here's going to be a big old gulp of oxygen that's going to go through your lungs and out of your mouth. And that's kind of the way I look at that, is that, the yawn is essentially, it almost feels like more spirit is with you, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just alternative ideologies, I guess.
Yeah, I never thought about it. I never thought about it that way. I just that's a good point of view. But my thing is, bro, like us as humans. I mean, I still want to talk about what you touch on what you said about like, just like you're trying to understand all these things, right? That are like why did God create everything? Why are we here? Basically, I try to not, because I used to be that way, bro. I used to like, which is nothing wrong, nothing wrong with like trying to perceive stuff and like trying to like, open up your brain to like a different outlook. I just feel me as a human, when I was manifesting, when I was doing all the Reiki and like the visualization, that's all based out of fear because I want control over my life. Because I don't know what's going to happen. Like I feel like everything is just like the root of that is fear and you want control. So once I came closer to Christ, what really drew me, what really like clicked for me after everything happened was how when you're in a toxic relationship or like in a toxic whatever, that's all control. That's all judgment. That's all condemnation. That's all criticism. That's all putting you down. And But real love is free will and conviction, you know? So if I'm receiving that from God, you know, and that's true love because God made us, but he gave us free will. Like you can follow me if you want. If you don't, okay, well, that's up to you. And you ask, why would he make us? And then say, oh, you didn't follow my rules? I'm gonna send you to hell. Which I used to believe that too. Because growing up in Catholic church, you know, oh, you don't follow the Ten Commandments, you're gonna fucking burn in hell, you know? Um, but I see it as when we're born, you know, just like you watch movies and stuff, you think, man, if I die, am I gonna go to heaven or am I gonna go to hell? Or am I gonna come back as a reincarnation? But I believe that heaven is a gift, not a reward. So, you know, God sent his only begotten son to die for us so that we may have eternal life, right? Um, that being said, he's trying to save us from going to hell because we're all born sinners. We're born into this broken world. So we're going to hell by default. So I used to think, oh, you broke my rules, you going to hell. But in reality is we're already going there. But he sent his only son to save us, to not go there. You know? So it's not even about religion, bro. Like I don't even care about like, yeah, like I'll go to church, like I said, but that's all performative bullshit at the end of the day, dude, to me. You know, no respect to anybody. But
Well, no, I think that actually is a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier about the problem of cultural contingency, in which there were spiritual customs back in the day, especially in Mosaic law within Judaism, that you would sacrifice animals such as calves and goats and all this other shit to God in order to cleanse you of your sins, right? Like that was the idea, that you would sacrifice and then you would be clean. You would be essentially like, I don't want to say born again or baptized, but you get what I'm trying to say. In those times, it was cultural it was like as cultural as the internet is nowadays, right? As that sacrifice was back in those days. It was a regular occurrence. And even still today, there are a lot of practicing Jews who are still doing the like some of the ancient sacrifices and whatnot, mainly because they don't believe that, you know, the Messiah ever came back, right? And so they're kind of still going on with the Mosaic law. But what's strange is that we don't do that nowadays. Like there's not a whole lot of people that are out here like sacrificing fucking animals to a god, whether it is the Christian God or any god, right? Like that's not how we think. We don't think, well, the only way I'm going to get cleansed of my sins is if I sacrifice this animal. That's not the way that our minds work. Yet back then, that is exactly how it worked. And so according to that cultural contingence, you would, of course, you would say, all right, well, look, you're not going to sacrifice any animals. This is God now saying, instead of you sacrificing animals, I'm going to bring my son into reality and sacrifice him on your behalf so that now you'll be cleansed of sin forever as long as you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior kind of deal. You would only do that if the cultural significance of it made sense. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So like right now, if let's just say that Jesus never came and Jesus decided to incarnate in this life for the very first time in 2026, and we're way past sacrificing animals, you know, we're way past all of those old ways. We've evolved. We're not doing that shit anymore. We've kind of become of this earth, but we're not necessarily doing that kind of stuff. Not everybody. I know that there are some fucking satanic people out there and witchcraftian people, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your normal everyday Joe Schmo and Jane, right? We're not sacrificing. So the significance of a sacrifice of God's son in 2026 wouldn't really make any sense. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It made sense back then because it was normal. It was cultural to sacrifice things in order to cleanse sins. We don't do that now. Do you see what I'm saying? And so that kind of points to that ideology that, well, that might have been their interpretation of God through their cultural lens of something that transcended their normal practices. All right. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. So the idea to me that God would send somebody to sacrifice in order to cleanse nowadays in 2026 wouldn't make a whole lick of sense. And so that's
to me, I think it would still have the same impact. I feel like, because you're sending, like, Jonathan, I love you, but I would have sacrificed my son for you. You know, like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't, you know, like because I feel like
what was old boy that within the Bible, was it shit, I'm terrible with biblical names. Was it Abraham?
Yeah, that he was gonna kill his son, and then God stopped him right before, something like that.
God told him to go up to that mountaintop and literally sacrifice his son. Like, that's how committed Abraham was to listening to God. I don't know about you, and knock on wood, I don't really mean this, but I would tell God to absolutely get fucked if he told me to sacrifice my son. There's no way. Absolutely no way. Right? Like, could you see yourself doing that? You have kids, right? Like, that's it. That's illogical. It's like stupid. Why do I need to kill something in order to show my allegiance to you? You would never do that.
Yeah.
So that points to the cultural customs of that time, is my point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you're saying, bro. Everybody would just sacrifice animals and think, oh, that's gonna cleanse my sins, and people would even sacrifice their children, like their firstborns, you know, and which is, I feel like, is still happening to this day, which is abortion, you know. But that's a whole different topic. But
now you're speaking my conspiracy language right there.
Oh, trust me, bro. People still worship Baal, but it's just a different way, modern way. But I just, you know, I know I said, oh, you're gonna burn to hell, you know, you're gonna have eternal regret. So when I think of hell, dude, you ever been in a grocery store and you lose your mom and you panic? You don't know where your mom is at, you know?
Yep.
I feel like that's hell, but for eternity. Like, you're gonna be separated from God, but for eternity. So if he sent his only son to pay for our sins, you know, I feel that, like, I believe that just by having faith, I'm saved. Which, in contrast, when I was doing New Age, you know, I had to rub the crystals and meditate and do yoga and all this. It's just a lot of work, like a lot of proving myself, like, oh, I need to get enlightened. I need to, like, reach a certain level of enlightenment. I feel like I'm doing so much work, but I'm not getting nowhere. I still feel empty inside. I still feel fucking gay and suicidal and shit.
Sure,
and
but
I don't know who I am.
Let me ask you this though: Are religious people not holding their crucifixes tight knit to their chest? Are a lot of people not, like, clutching their Bibles whenever they're in times of, you know, terror or going through any kind of tribulation in their life? And so my point is that, like, there is still, I don't know, maybe this is a wrong way to interpret it. I believe that there is still, even though Christianity said that it basically condemns idol worship, there still is idol worship within Christianity. Would you disagree?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't disagree. I'm saying, like, like, I believe people, what I've seen, you know, they go away from the basic message, bro, which is that Jesus came, he died for us so that we can be renewed and redeemed by his blood and be perfected by him to reach heaven, to have access to the Father. But they're making it, like, you know, religion, and make it about rules, and make it about judgment, and, oh, you're not good enough, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're drifting off from the whole point of why God sent his son, which is, I believe Jesus is also was God, you know, in human form. So that when I stumbled upon that, everything's basically clicked for me, bro. I stopped understanding and just accepting it. I'm walking by faith and not sight, because my heart is very deceitful. Like, I can feel, hey, he's real one day and the other day not, but I'm not relying on my feelings. I'm relying on his word and on my faith. So people just want to base off like, oh, well, I'm a good person and I do good deeds, and but they make themselves their own God, but they're not perfect. So when they fall short, it's like very low rock bottom. Like, so they're very low,
So
which in
you said something that was very interesting there, and
yeah,
you're not, in the minority in saying that you believe that Jesus was essentially God incarnate, right?
yeah, yeah.
And to be honest, I believe that as well, just not in the same sense that maybe religious folk would look at.
Hmm.
So, but all right. So have you ever heard that there's a discrepancy within the teachings of Jesus and the teachings of Apostle Paul, otherwise known as Saul, before he sees Jesus in the clouds?
That he was against them, right? He was killing people who were believers.
Yeah, Saul, he was like going around and killing Christians and stuff like that because it was against the Pharisees' belief and stuff like that,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
then one day on the road to Damascus, he's on his horse or his donkey or whatever the fuck. He has two of his homies with him, and he sees literally like Jesus speaking to him from a cloud, and it's a divine revelation, right, of what
Hmm.
he's experiencing. And in that moment, he believes that he's perceiving more of Jesus's message. And then he goes on to say, well, look, it wasn't until Paul that people started worshiping Jesus on the cross. It was always understood, prior to, and you can go and look back at Jesus's teachings whenever he was alive, like his real spoken words. Some people call them the words in red, right? If you look at the words in red, anytime somebody asks Jesus about, what is this world about, and what's the right way to live, and tell me a little bit about heaven and hell, and how do I get to heaven, and all this kind of stuff. Never once did Jesus, while he was alive, remember, he is God incarnate, meaning he's all the omnis, he's the Alpha and the Omega. He sees all, he knows all, he is all, right? If Jesus is God in that moment, and somebody asked him any of those kind of questions, wouldn't he have the peace of mind to understand that there would be an answer about what to do, on how to worship him, on how to get to heaven? But for some reason, whenever Jesus is asked about how to get to heaven and what's the proper way to live life, he never once said, worship me, and you're gonna have eternal regret or anything like that if you don't. Essentially, he was giving a bunch of different kind of parables. And in those parables, one of the more common parables that people understand is the story that Jesus told about the parable of the prodigal son, right? In that whole
Hmm.
story, it's basically like there's this kid, he kind of wants to go live on his own. He takes his father's inheritance, goes out and fucks off for a little bit, spends it all, comes crawling back, wants to be a servant to his dad because he thinks that that's the only way that he's going to be able to not have to eat pig shit all day. And his father welcomes
Yeah.
back with open arms, saying, I never left you. I was always here waiting for you. It's a beautiful story, right? Brings people to tears.
Hmm.
Never once did Jesus say that the only way to get to heaven is if you announce that I am your Lord and Savior and repent and do all of this extra shit. He gave stories on how to get back to God. And so basically my point is, the idea of worshiping the crucified Jesus and seeing that Jesus cleansed the earth of all of its sin, and he fulfilled a prophecy in order to allow there to be eternal life and all this stuff. How is that possible that Jesus didn't know that that was going to be the rules whenever he was alive, that he essentially had to come back because, oops, forgot to mention that part, so let me go and meet a guy that was killing Christians, who was a prophecy, which he spoke majorly against the prophecies, like, or not the prophecies, what was I just saying? Oh shoot. What was Paul? Damn. I just lost that word. What was he before he was a Christian?
A murderer? I don't know. But I follow what you're saying.
There's a term that I'm looking for. Pharisee. I always get Pharisee and prophecy
conflated.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, so Jesus forgot to mention that the only way to save yourself is through his sacrifice, right? Like he never mentioned that while he was alive. So he has to say, oops, I come back and let me appear on a cloud to a guy who was a Pharisee who I was heavily against the Pharisees. Like if there was any one religious group that Jesus was heavily against, it was the Pharisees, because they were all about like ritual cleanliness and following like all these strict, like really strict rules in order to be perceived as like perfect in God's eyes and all this kind of shit, right? Jesus was very against all that shit. He was like, look, that's not the way. I'm going to show you the way. That ain't the fucking way. But for some reason, Jesus forgets to relay the message about worshiping him on the cross dead. And so he appears to Saul, which, you know, Saul just so happens to self-appoint his own new name and change his name to Paul. And now Paul is here to spread the message. And in my opinion, Paul is the one that bastardized, you know, Christ's teachings. I feel like whenever there's a lot of Christians out there, whenever they talk and they sit in judgment, kind of like how you did, which is how this whole thing started, whenever they sit in judgment and all this bullshit, it is because of Paul's teachings. It is not because of any words that Jesus said. Like, if people actually listen to what Jesus said, I mean, dude, it was, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was all love and peace, but it wasn't condemnation and judgment, you know, like, like Paul eventually brought on with the church.
I get totally what you're saying, dude. People use words as, you know, to fit their narrative, I feel like, instead of just, to me, bro, I always bring it back to the gospel. Like, I know what you're saying about Paul, but I don't follow Paul, bro. I follow Jesus. And he did say that I am the way, the truth, and the life. That, you know, and if you want to get to the Father, you have to go through me, through him, you know? So I feel like that's why, I believe that's why they killed him, because they asked him, like, are you the Son of God? And he said, yeah, you know, and they saw that as like, oh, that's blasphemy. You know, he's healing people and, you know, he's taking credit for it and he's calling himself God, and how dare him. And, you know what I'm saying? That's,
well, which is strange, because his retort to that was, he said, has the law not said that ye are not gods, or that ye are gods? So he was basically saying, look, I'm not saying that I'm special. I'm saying that all of you are the same thing too, I feel like. Right? Because in the old Mosaic God, it was kind of referring to the world leaders, and kind of how we were talking about like kings and queens as the Elohim, or kings and, you know, leaders of the world as Elohim, essentially gods on earth. And that's what Jesus was trying to say, that like, look, I'm not saying that I'm even higher up than y'all. Does not your old Mosaic law tell you that ye are gods? You know, that was a question. That was his response to that. And then of course they still end up taking his ass out. But yeah, point is that I don't know, dude. It like, if we're looking at God that is outside of time, how would Jesus not have known to mention the entire sacrifice in order to get to heaven? It's not until Paul comes that Paul says that after Jesus dies. Like, it is crazy to me. But anyway, I got a couple more things that I wanted to touch on before we get on with the rest. All right, so. Okay, so you have the whole slavery deal. Oh, here's another one. As far as biblical regulations and biblical rules and whatnot, did you know that? All right, so there's a lot of religious folk who are heavily against homosexuals, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to sound like a fucking liberal, because I hate politics. I can't stand either side. Okay, so if anybody tries to put me into a conservative or a liberal box, I'm telling you, I'm neither one. I really don't care. I'm not a bleeding heart, and I'm not one of those good old boys either. So miss me with all that for all the people that may be listening on the other side of this. But point is that within that same so there's a passage within the Bible that talks about, how God may be against homosexuality, right? And you're like, okay, that's a rule. It's part of my religion. I'm gonna stick with it. But the problem is that there are actually a lot of rules in that same passage about people who are against homosexuality. But for some reason, they pay the most attention to the homosexuality and kind of disregard the rest. Almost like the old saying that a sin is a sin, right? Like within the Bible, there is no sin I think there's only one sin that transcends all sin, but outside of that, all sins are basically a sin, right?
Yeah.
But within that passage of going against homosexuality, it is also against mixing your fabrics, mixing all your linens and whatnot, right? Like you're not supposed to have polyester mixed with cotton. Like that is a sin. And that's as much of a sin as homosexuality is, according to the Bible. It's literally mentioned right next to it. And that's along with certain dietary restrictions and other ancient laws that they may have had. And going on with that, like there were views on women and lending money and governance that have evolved a lot since that time. Like the way in which we handle finances and the way in which maybe we have more respect for women now than we did, 2,000 years ago or whatever. And government in general have definitely evolved. It's almost like imagine this. Imagine a civilization 1,000,000 years more advanced than ours. So take 2026 and put a 1 and a couple of zeros in front of that. And let's say it's the year 2026, right? And if this message is for all people of all times, it would have to apply to the people 1,000,000 years from right now, right? So imagine a civilization 1,000,000 years more advanced than ours, and they that receives a message from a truly timeless intelligence. So this is kind of going back to that whole cultural contingency. 1,000,000 years from now, people are not going to understand sacrifice. Like they probably are not going to understand it because it's going to seem barbaric. It already seems barbaric to us, and we're only 2,000 years removed from it. Now think about 1,000,000 years from that. And that's assuming that, humanity continues to evolve, morally or, just in every way possible, technology and all this other stuff. Like, it's crazy to imagine that. So would you expect, so let's say that there is some kind of timeless message in there 1,000,000 years from now. Would you expect the message to contain highly localized concerns about shepherds, livestock, tribal inheritance, and ancient social customs? Like you'd be like, what? I'm supposed to keep people in slavery? I'm supposed to sacrifice animals? Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense as far as that whole thing goes. And so basically my point is that the message of God, if it is a true message of God, it should be timeless. It shouldn't be time specific. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I got 2 more things that I kind of wanted to throw out there. So
you're saying like, is a message going to make sense 1,000,000 years from now? Is it going to like, the context of it, is it going to fit into that time frame? That's what you're saying.
Could it possibly resonate with people a 1,000,000 years from now?
Yeah.
Because it barely resonates with people 2,000 years from then. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the whole idea that God had to sacrifice his son. Let me just ask you, like you say that, and not just you, but people who believe in this religion, they're oftentimes like, God sacrificed his only begotten son in order to essentially save the world, right? Like, can you tell me why that works? Like, why did God, like, what is the mechanism that allows sacrifice to work to you? Like, how does sacrifice work? How does sacrifice grant God's wishes?
Because his son was half God, half human, and he was perfect. We're not perfect. We're always going to fall short to his glory. And I just feel like, I believe, I keep saying I feel like that's a bad habit, but I believe, bro, that I'm not just spitting stuff that I read, I'm just repeating it. It just, I stopped trying to make sense of it. And once I just accepted it, it makes sense. I know it sounds weird, but I have like this internal peace, like this supernatural peace. I just can't explain it. Just knowing that I'm redeemed. But I know what you're asking, like why sacrifice his son? I ask myself the same thing, but I just see it as, bro, he loved us so much that he sent his son so that we wouldn't be separated from him because of what happened in the garden, you know?
Sure,
Just,
but I guess what I'm trying to talk about is the mechanism behind it. So, for example, there were ancient cultures that used to sacrifice their firstborn kids to Baal or Beelzebub or name your demon or anything like that, right? Like, and that's why
yeah.
it was a cultural custom to sacrifice animals rather than your kids, because people were like, I'm not sacrificing my kids anymore. I'm just going to sacrifice this chicken and maybe the gods will be appeased, essentially. But if sacrificing a kid works in the magical way of appeasing a Beelzebub or a Baal or Baal, as some people may say, if the mechanism works that same exact way, why does it also work the same exact way for the God that created all of those deities in the first place? Do you get what I'm saying? So we're so against sacrifice, yet the reason why people are Christians is because they sacrifice. We're so against like Baal and Beelzebub because people used to sacrifice their kids and people used to sacrifice other people to appease these gods. Yet for some reason, God one-upped them, created his own son to be sacrificed. But why? Why in order to cleanse the world? In order to cleanse the world, why do you need a sacrifice at all? Why couldn't you just say, I'm God, I'm going to wrinkle my nose and blink my eyes a couple of times, and I'm just going to wipe the slate because I am all, I am the beginning, I'm the end, I'm the alpha, I'm the omega, I'm all the omnis, I'm everything in between. Why does God need to do anything in order to make anything happen? Especially a sacrifice, which is absurd.
Would you agree that nothing in this world is free? Like just in general, like stuff that you need, like, or just your actions have consequences, right?
Sure.
Or every action has consequence. Doesn't matter if it's a good action or a bad action. I believe that the wages of sin are death. So if he sent his son to die for us, so we may be redeemed of our sins, because that's the only way, that's the only thing that's gonna sin. Death is the only thing that's gonna result from sin. So he sacrificed for us so that we don't have to perish after we die because we sinned our whole lives, bro. So did that make sense?
Right, but here's the thing. You got to
Yeah.
understand, like, God created the code of this reality. He created the ones and the zeros. He's the one that determined what meant what actions resulted in what consequences, right? Like, whenever I jump and I come back to the ground, that's gravity, right? Like, he created that code into this physical world that whenever somebody jumps, gravity's going to pull them down. Some people, the flat earthers, will say that it's density or buoyancy. I'm not having that debate today. Point is that there is an action that we can all take, and then there is a result as a result of all of it, right? And so God created all of the things that would happen and also created the consequence of all things that would happen. So if you're God and you're writing the playbook, you are writing the script of how life is going to be carried out, why would you create some of the craziest shit out there as a possibility, right? Like, and to make matters even worse, the God that is love sacrifices his son to prove love. That I have a hard time comprehending how that works. Do you see what I'm
Well, I
saying?
mean, yeah, but he also came back to life. He's still alive, you know. So I feel like I don't know what you mean. You're trying to understand like why sacrifice, like why not? You're asking why not another way?
I'm trying to understand the psychology behind it.
Yeah, but man,
And
I'm not saying that,
I get what you're doing. I totally
yeah,
understand. You have completely surrendered control to God. You have
yes,
completely surrendered
yes,
control. You don't need to know how it works. You just have surrendered to it, and therefore it does work. And I'm not even trying to go against that. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that there are people that it's hard to do something like that whenever it seems so illogical and counterintuitive to how the rest of the world is and how our minds work and how maybe we might carry out certain actions, right? Like, so
yeah,
it's not necessarily that people, that we're working on the side of the devil, that we're condemned to hell, that, it's all doom and gloom and we're for team darkness. It's not necessarily that. And I also want to say, even the people out there that are kind of relying on their tarot cards and their crystals and power of manifestation and all that kind of stuff, and you were kind of showing about how it was really more of an obsessive effort to control certain outcomes within their life. I'll say I don't do that. I'm not somebody who is obsessed with the control about how outcomes are going to work. The way I kind of look at it, and I oftentimes say it all the time, is one of my favorite tarot cards in the entire deck is the Hanged Man. And I love it because of its significance of surrender, about like the importance of surrender. And whenever I say surrender, I'm not surrendering it to a specific deity. I'm not surrendering it to a specific anything, really. Whenever I say surrender, I'm surrendering to my connection to like higher realms, call it higher consciousness, call it the higher source. You could even say that I surrender to the will of God if you want to look at it through that specific flavor. It's all the same thing to a lot of people. And I think that there is a certain flow of this life that we almost have to surrender to. We all, like, not everybody. I guess I can speak to for myself. I believe that there is a certain destiny for all of us, right? Like, especially if we are existing in linear time, God sees things that are outside of time. There would have to be something that transpires throughout my life, some kind of evolution of the person that is Jonathan that eventually goes down the path that he goes down, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. I surrender to my destiny. I surrender to the will of the higher eye in the sky, so to say. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily out here trying to control anything. And so I kind of just want to throw that out there. And really the reason why I wanted to have this conversation in the first place was to kind of shed a little bit of light and not necessarily to come at you and your beliefs. I respect you. I respect your beliefs. There is nothing wrong with that. We are all our own individuals. We can make all of our own choices. I'm not even judging you because, hey, brother, if it works, it works. If it's keeping you out of trouble, if it's keeping you like, on the right path, if it's keeping your connection to God powerful and keeps you on a journey of unfolding excitement and lessons and all everything that you're ever going to experience, and it helps you look at life through that lens, you found it. There is no need to go finding any farther because you already found exactly what you were looking for and it works for you. But for a lot of people, we need a little bit more. And not to say that it's not enough. It's just not enough for everybody, right? Like, I like pepperoni pizza. That's my favorite kind of pizza. Maybe you like mushroom pizza. It's not to say that pepperoni pizza sucks. It's that in your eyes, mushroom pizza just tastes way better and it works for you. And, so it's kind of a subjective thing. But that was kind of my main reason for wanting to do this show in the first place. But, yeah, I mean, I definitely respect you and I appreciate you for coming on and having the conversation in the first place.
No, thanks for having me, brother. No, I completely understand because when I talk to a lot of people, so my thing is when I speak to people, I don't bring up God at all, dude. I don't, unless they bring it up, cool. But not, I'm not the type to like be preachy and like be judgmental and whatever. Like, yeah, I commented on your reel because I felt a little triggered. But I think that's just because of my previous relationship, because I kept hearing the same stuff from her and, seeing it from you. But uh at the same time, bro, I comment and I don't think, I just comment and I keep scrolling. I didn't even think you were going to reply. So this is cool that we're here having this conversation.
Hey, dude, it's how we evolve as humans, brother. We just we come together, we chat about what our differences are, and we garner a better understanding of each other. That's all it's about,
So, but I really believe that a lot of people they turn away from religion. And I say religion because, well, I don't consider myself religious at all. Like, to me, religion is like control and rules and like I told you, like condemnation. Like, oh, how dare you do this? Or like a lot of gaslighting. Like a lot of, the way that I see how, because I believe there was a real thing, Lucifer, Lucy. This thing will tempt you into doing something bad, and then you do it, and he'll be like, man, how dare you do that? You're a piece of shit. Why'd you do that? But you're gaslighting me. You made me do it. You tempted me to do it, and then I do it, and you're like, man, how dare you do that? But God goes, my son, you're better than that. He doesn't condemn you. A lot of people think, oh, I did something bad. I sinned. I'm not good enough for God anymore. I have to clean myself. I had to I'm not good enough for God. But the whole point is that you're cleansed with his blood to be perfect in his eyes and righteousness. And religion, bro, it's just shame. And the thing about, you were saying about how people be in church like Pharisees and all that, I feel like where I believe, I wrote this down, by the way, it's just a thought, like religion, it brings shame, but they remind you of your past so you can be humble. So you can be, I'm humble, so I'm going to be forgiven because I feel bad about what I did. Whereas God says your sins, you don't even think about them. So that's what's helped me just transcend, because to me, repenting means, I used to think repenting meant I'm going to stop sinning and I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to be a good boy and God's going to love me. But repenting to me now is just transcending my belief and putting it all on him instead of me. I'm just accepting, and that's it. I'm not doing the work. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be perfect like Jesus. I'm not trying to be like goody two shoes every day, because I'm going to fail regardless.
But what if you didn't succumb to the temptations, right? Like, what if you could learn not to succumb to them?
That's impossible, I feel like. I believe we're all going to...
Right, but if you kept God at the forefront and every day you were trying to remain as faithful as humanly possible, and Jesus showed you the way, and actually the original philosophy of Jesus, it was never called Christianity, obviously, like Jesus was still alive. He taught what he called the way, right? And so he was showing the way, and that's why he had, his followers, and there were some that fell off, and not everybody could really make it, and stuff like that. And that's why whenever he had actually mentioned, this was after he was able to make the abundance of fish and bread and all that kind of stuff to all of his followers, right? Then after he was able to do that, he, I believe that's whenever he went somewhere else. Like I don't know if this was the time that he walked on water or whatever, but essentially he ends up telling those people that literally he just created a miracle in front of their face. Like he was able to multiply all of these things, turn water to wine, multiply loaves of bread and fish. And he was showing like, look, I'm on some shit right here. Just follow what I'm trying to say. I know the way. And he was able to provide that through like these kind of magical essences, essentially. Right. And through that, he then said, all right, you saw what I was able to do. You saw what I was able to show you. Now what I need you to do is this is where the whole idea of eating the cracker and drinking the juice, like eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, is what he told some of his followers, right? And that's why you have the communion nowadays.
Yeah.
Dude, during that time, the majority of the group that were following him, the majority of the people that ate of the bread and ate of the fish and drank of the wine and all of his miracles that he was able to do were like, bro, what the fuck did you just say? Drink your blood and eat your flesh? Say what? And like a lot of them just like fell off. They were like, all right, I was with this guy up until a point, but he fucking crossed a bridge that was a little too far. So, but all that was left was the 12 apostles, right? Like the people, like his main followers that were with him. And they were like, look, I don't care how kooky or crazy it sounds. I know that you are the way, you are the truth, you are the life. Whatever you say, I will abide by whatever it is, right? And he was trying to teach them the way. So all of those same apostles, those 12 apostles that everybody knows about, were there and didn't flinch whenever he said to drink of my blood and eat of my flesh, right? He didn't literally mean it. He wasn't talking about cannibalism. He was saying, literally comprehend what I'm saying. I'm showing you the way. I need you to know that what I'm saying is the absolute truth. Eat of the energy of basically what I'm trying to say, right? I believe that was kind of the message. Point is that there is a way, and Jesus was trying to teach everybody the way in which, in order to live a righteous life, in order to be in communion with God. And so whenever people go around and they say, well, there was only ever one perfect person and nobody will ever be able to do it, Jesus would have never said that. He never would have said that. Otherwise, why would he try and teach people the way? So my point is that yes, there may be temptations of the world, but if you are following the way that Jesus was trying to teach, devil ain't got shit on me, bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, get the fuck out of here, Lucifer. Like, you ain't nothing. You are below me. You are less than dirt, you know, because I am one with God. And that's what Jesus was trying to teach. He and God were one. He was trying to say to everybody else, you can also have this. Greater things than I have done, you will be able to do. That was Jesus's teachings. And yet for some reason, through this Pauline ideology that we have worshiped the crucified Jesus rather than the living Jesus, we are now putting Jesus on a pedestal and saying that we could never come up to what Jesus was able to do. And that is the problem I personally, along with many other people, have with religion in general. To say that you are a follower of Jesus, but you're never going to be able to do anything, you're never going to be able to live up to what he was able to do, Jesus would never say that, I believe. And whenever people say that they'll never be able to live up to that, you're essentially giving yourself a hall pass and saying, well, I'm never going to be perfect. Look, if I decide to fuck a couple of hoes later, if I decide to poke a couple of needles into my arm full of heroin, or if I decide to pack up my pipe full of meth, or if I decide to fuck off or have these terrible ideas or allow these temptations into my life, if I allow that kind of nonsense in my life, well, I'm already saved because I'm covered in the blood of Jesus. And this is the kind of shit that people have against Christianity, because it seems like it's rules for thee and not for me. It's almost a get out of jail free card. It's like, I've given myself to Jesus and I can still be a shithead. And Jesus wasn't saying that bullshit. Jesus was trying to show everybody the way. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there seems to be some kind of contradiction.
I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Like, because I think about it that way too. Like, that's like if, say, I said, hey, Jonathan, come to this restaurant. Your food, it's on my tab. You go, you enjoy your meal, and you leave. Are you gonna go back continuously and like abuse my tab? No, because you know that's not right. Like, you're abusing my grace, my gift for you. You know, so the thing about temptation, you're never gonna be perfect, right? So to me,
where does it say that? Where does it say that in the Bible? Why do you think that?
Bro, you're not God. I'm not God. We're all gonna fall short to his glory. You know, we're never gonna live up to that standard that he was. because I'm not gonna exalt myself. Like, I'm not God. I'm not, you know. What I'm trying to say is, what the thing I was saying, talking about earlier about me not knowing my identity. To me, sin is an identity. Like I was telling you about my family, like it was all lustful and stuff. That was my identity. But through Christ, He gave me a new identity, which is, being perfected through His blood in His eyes, being righteousness. Not self righteous, but just righteous and being in good standing with Him, just by having faith and believing that I'm saved through Him. But I know what you're saying. I know what you're talking. I know what you mean, bro. Like people are like, oh, so I get a free pass. I can just do whatever. But I think by saying that, because I did have this thought of like, okay, He died for my sins and He redeemed me, but yet I'm still not perfect, so I'm gonna sin again, right? Um, so what? Was His death not good enough for me? What? Like, what His sacrifice was not good enough for my redemption, so it didn't mean anything. So if I sin again, I'm gonna lose my salvation. So He died for nothing because I kept sinning. If you're saying he's not in time, He's out of time. So He died for all my past, present, and future sins. So I think, I hope I'm making sense because I'm just
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say.
I never say these things out loud. I have them in here.
Hey,
But
dude, look, I think that we all have a divine connection to the divine. I think that, it would be impossible for us not to have that, being that we are in the creation or in the dream or in the simulation or in the matrix, or however you want to call it. But let me ask you this, and this is just out of my own genuine curiosity. If Jesus was perfect, and you believe that you are following the way of Jesus, right? You're trying to live the way that Jesus was trying to teach His people around Him how to live. Yet, of course, we all know we live in the world of temptation. And some people will say, well, that's the devil. Kind of like what you were alluding to. That's the devil that is the one that is showing us them temptations. All right, you make a promise to yourself, I'm going to be celibate. But the moment a big booty Latino walks your way and is trying to sit on your lap, you're going to be like, all right, okay, I'm weak. There's only so much I can do. But if you were to say in that moment, Jesus, please deliver me from this temptation, would it not work?
He said, flee from lust. So I would just flee. But I know what you mean.
I'm talking about that for all temptation. That way, in forms of all temptation that the devil or Lucifer may present you with, they're only suggestions, right? Like the devil's not making you do anything through the Christian lens. It's only subtle suggestions, little hints. Like that beer looks really crispy. That ass looks really juicy. That whatever, the mixture of linens that isn't 100% cotton sure looks comfy. However you want to look at it, right? Like a sin is a sin is a sin, as they say. If in those moments of weakness that you feel like you may be succumbing to a temptation that would lead to sin, couldn't you just rely on Jesus and just say, Jesus, help me, for I am weak, or something along those lines? So my point about all that is that if you're in my eyes, and this is the way I look at it, and I could be wrong, in my eyes, if you're trying to walk the way that Jesus was trying to show, Jesus never said anything about like, all right, it's okay if you fuck up from time to time. No, that's not what He was teaching. Like, not to say that those people won't be saved or anything like that. I don't believe that you make a sin and you're forever fucked. I don't believe that. But if you're presented with a temptation of sorts, I feel like there's always a way out of that, right? Like, if you're always walking with Jesus, how is there not always a way out of temptation, and therefore eliminating the foe that would be Lucifer that creates all the temptations in the first place, which would eventually allow you to live, dare I say, a perfect life?
Yes.
Does that math to you?
Yes. I know what you mean.
So how could we also not be perfect, is my point. Like if you're looking at it through that religious
Because
lens.
because we're born in a sinful nature. That's just our nature. We're human. We're not gods.
Yeah,
We're
but the
always
idea
gonna
is to try
fall.
and transcend that nature.
Yes, that's repenting. That's believing that, hey, sin is an identity. That's not me no more. I don't have to believe that story. This is my new story through Christ. I've been redeemed through Him. Am I gonna be too perfect like Him every day? No, but like you said, I feel like temptation is an opportunity to exercise your faith. So yeah, there's
Perfectly
days
said.
where I'll have road rage. I'll say a racial slur. I'll fight with my brothers. Like I'm not perfect, bro. Like if a Christian were to see this right now, they'll call me fake because I'm not following everything to the T like they are. I'm not going to church every Sunday. I'm not serving in a church. I'm not, like I just straight up believe in God and following Him and just believe putting on my faith in Him. I'm not doing good deeds so I can be on His good side. I'm just believing and repenting and just I every morning I put on the armor of God. There's days where I don't even pray in the mornings where I forget. I wake up late or something. But you know, how like in New Age you do the incense, you cleanse yourself and you keep the negative vibes away. Well, with the armor of God, I'm praying and asking for strength to like not be tempted and to not fall into temptation. And if you're not praying enough, if you're not feeding your spirit, well, obviously you're gonna feed into your flesh, you know. So
Deliver us from evil, so to say, right?
yes. Mhm.
I get it, man. And again, like this is
But
all just like different
I get your
perspectives.
questions. Yeah, because I've been thinking the same thing. So I'm just like, man, like I'll smoke weed or something. And I'm like, damn, bro, like, well, why did I do that? If I just, I'll start convicting, I start condemning myself. But I feel like that's what Satan wants. That's what he wants me to do. Like he wants me to believe that I'm not good enough for Christ. What he did for me was not. It didn't save me. It didn't, save. It didn't grant me eternal life, like he says.
Is it
It's like it's almost like
possible? Is it
it's
possible
almost
to
it's almost
you?
like
Oh, go
it's
ahead.
almost like a bitter baby mama like trying to like tell you your dad was an evil guy. He was a bad person. He didn't love you. Like trying to gaslight you into believing that you're not good enough for God, for your father.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But is it possible to you that, again, God
Mm-hmm.
existing outside of time and everything that God has created is God? There is nothing that isn't God. If He's omnipotent, omnipresent, and what was the other omni? I forgot.
Omnipotent,
Omniscient. If
omniscient.
if God is everything and knows everything and sees everything as if they're pages in a book and creates everything through His own will, right? Then wouldn't it be more helpful to look at Lucifer almost as a tool of God in order to tempt you through temptation of your faith? Almost as if
Yeah.
like so like if God
Someone's
created
like,
everything, then He had to create Lucifer, right? And if
yeah.
everything is created for a reason through divine reasoning or what have you, wouldn't the tool, let's just call Lucifer a tool in order to use to tempt people to sway them away from their faith, wouldn't you then say that like Lucifer is a pretty useful tool in order to strengthen your faith, in order to be able to rely on God and not the sinful forces of human nature?
Mm, you can see it you can see it that way because I think of it as because I got betrayed. We all get betrayed. Jesus was also betrayed. So I think of it as you can't serve two masters. So either you follow Christ or you follow something else, which is I believe the enemy, which is Satan. Yeah, but I know what you're saying. Like, is he using him as a tool to test you, to test your faith, to see if you're a good son, good daughter? But to me, it's just like it's free will. So you don't have to follow Christ. If Satan, I don't think he made him to I don't think he created Satan to tempt us. I think he just made him and this guy just went his own way, like, oh, I'm prideful, worship me. I don't have to worship you, God. So he, you know, kicked him out of heaven. But what I'm trying to say is I don't think his specific role is to be here to tempt us. I think he's just here to like stray us away and have us follow him instead of like follow Christ. You know, because if he's gonna go to hell, well, he might as well take all of us with him. You know, because hell wasn't created for us; it was created for him. But if we're all following his ways, we're basically his children, and you're gonna go his way. If that makes sense.
So there's I want to try and end on a positive note here. And there's a couple of things that I want to do before we get out of here. My favorite Bible verse, I talk about it all the time, is Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. And this is God speaking. God says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things, right? And if you're looking at that as if, because a lot of people will say, well, God is all good and Satan's all evil. They're almost like two sides of the same coin. There's the light and there's the darkness. Almost look at God and Lucifer as the yin yang that are just, they're forever fish that are trying to chase each other in a circle. And there can't be light without darkness. There can't be darkness without light. And so they essentially need each other in order to exist in this physical dimension, so to say. In order to be able to tell the difference between what's God and what's not, you need something that isn't of the light of God. And so kind of looking at it like that. But instead, God says, I am the light and I am the darkness. I am the peace and I am the evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So it kind of almost, in my mind, takes Lucifer, it takes, all of these Satan characters out of the equation. And God is essentially saying, I'm everything. And by saying that, I want to point to this other verse that says, this is where I believe Jesus is saying this, and he goes, nor will they say, see here, or see there, or look there, for indeed the kingdom of God is within you. And I like to point at that one to try and remember everybody's own divine connection to the all that is, the Alpha and the Omega, the everything that is. The everything that created everything also created you, and you're not separate from it. As a matter of fact, you're connected to it, and you might even go as far as to say, I am that which was created from the perfect thing, right? So yeah, I kind of want to just maybe see what your thoughts are on that. I want to get to some of the comments here. Sorry, everybody that's been commenting, but it's been getting deep up in here, and I had to come up for air for a second.
Yeah, bro. I feel like, I believe that, yeah, he is everything. 'Cause he created. I don't think he specifically created Satan to send him down here and to test us. He made him, and this guy strayed away from Lord.
But that happened in time, though, didn't it? Like, you need the passage of time in order for things to evolve in a timely manner. So if God created Lucifer in heaven, he also knew that there would have been a timeline in which Lucifer would have fell from heaven, because he knows everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how could God be shocked at all about that if he already knows the story, because he's the one that wrote it in the first place?
I get what you're saying.
Something to contemplate. That's all I'm saying. It's just something to contemplate.
No. Yeah. Well, I know what you mean. But I also believe he's a God of love and not control. Even though he created everything, he's in control of everything. But to a certain extent, we all have free will. So I don't know if because I'm not an expert on everything, bro. I'm still barely new on my walk with Christ, but I just have this passion and faith about him. But I would like to believe, that he gave everything he created free will. He did. I don't think he knew that Satan was going to turn on him and he was going to have to kick him out. But that happened.
But how could he not? How could he not know it? Are you saying that God doesn't know? Are you saying that God doesn't know something?
I'm not saying it. I'm just saying, if he made creatures, he gives them free will. But I don't know that applies to angels in heaven that are out of time. They are not in our timeline. They are not in this world, this 3D dimension,
And it's also
So, I,
said
so
that angels in
yeah.
heaven actually look down upon us and they're jealous because they don't have free will like we do, which is
Mm.
strange because if they don't have free will, then how did Lucifer, an angel, and supposedly the most beautiful and the most vibrant and the most like perfect angel in heaven, how did that angel fall if he never had any free will to do so in the first place? Almost as if like God granted him free will in order to fall. And if God granted Lucifer free will to fall, then he had to have known that that was going to happen in the first place. And if he knew that that was going to happen in the first place, then he knew that we would be tempted. And he knew, and if he knew that we would eventually be tempted, he would know that he would be able to use that temptation in order to strengthen the faith of his followers, right?
Mhm.
I don't know, bro. I'm just going down a rabbit hole in my own mind.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel
this,
like I feel like it's like a dog chasing his tail. Like, oh, it's so, it's like, yeah. I get caught up in that too, bro. I started like thinking like, damn, but what if this and what if that? Like I said, when I get confused, I just go back to the gospel, man, to the good news. So that's
very
why
well.
I come on here. I wasn't trying to debate or nothing. I know that's not what we're doing, but because not a lot of people can have conversations where people don't agree with them. So my goal was to come out here and just try to share my journey and try to explain things in ways that I feel would have resonated with me when I needed it bad. So I just hope people can sort of grasp what I'm coming from, but I'm also being receptive to what you're saying, because I also have these questions. But when I think about these questions, I just feel like I'm just trying to rely on my own understanding, which is just limited. God
Yeah.
is unlimited.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm happy that we were able to have a conversation like this because you're right. There would be definitely some people that would be triggered by some of my questions. There would be people that would be triggered by some of your questions, but we were able to kind of bounce back ideas and philosophies and stuff off of each other, and all the what ifs. It was a beautiful thing, and to be honest, I think that that's the purpose of all of this, is for everybody to come together and get to understand one another rather than sitting from afar and judging.
Yeah, being so righteous. Oh, I'm right. You're wrong.
Who does
You're not
that
gonna
help?
get anywhere with
Who
that.
does that
Yeah,
help? Is
no,
that what God
yeah,
told anybody to do? No, right?
yeah. Just your ego is about it.
So before we wrap it up, two more things. I want to get through some of these messages. I'm not gonna be able to read all of them. White Boy Wizard said, I was raised Mormon. You want to talk about zero resonating principles. He was talking about you at your young age, whenever it
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
really resonating with you.
I had a buddy who was also Mormon. He also strayed away from that.
Yeah, yeah. He also said, oh, he's asking you, are you an Aquarius? Because I'm the same way. Try and tell me something to do.
No, I'm a Libra, but he probably asked that like an hour ago, huh?
Yeah. He said, what city do you do comedy in? By the way, give yourself a shout out as for where anybody can find you.
Uh, you can find me on Instagram, which is Ricky Rivera with 2 A's. I have a TikTok. It's gonna be linked to my Instagram. But I do shows locally here in Houston, all around Texas. I've been doing it for 5 years now. I love it. It's my gift that God gave me, but my life went to shit because I focused on that gift too much, and I didn't see the big gift, which was life. So I just need to throw that out there. That I'm not just a comedian. I'm just more. That's something I do, but I'm also a son of God.
Hell
First
yeah,
and
dude.
foremost.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and for anybody that wants to be able to follow you, your content, or be able to come to any of your shows, I'll have all those links down in the show notes below for anybody that wants to go and check you out. White Boy Wizard said, shout out to old Terrence McKenna. Bro was that psychonaut mystic, was an absolute genius. R.I.P. King. He also said, we are all one and God is always with us. I think
Amen.
so. Yes. Ash said, Jonathan, it all works because it's all just frequency, aka repeating patterns. It's all one giant unraveling Mandelbrot set, dude. It's a weird fucking spiral that we exist in. And that's what I think about reality in general, that it's not linear. I think that it works like a spiral, you know, because there seems to be like repeating patterns, but they're a little bit different as you tend to evolve.
Yeah. Dude, I read something about like if aliens were to see us light years away and they were looking to Earth, they would be looking at Roman times. They would be looking at like Stone Age times and not this actual time. It's just kind of trippy.
Yeah, well, and that's why I think they come here in order to see us in present time rather than trying to look at us through, you know, some kind of technology that wouldn't relay the exact, like, yeah, if they were to look through some kind of like giant mystical telescope that could see, you know, billions of light years or something like that, they would definitely see cavemen or us in Roman times, or they would see fucking dinosaurs or some bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird, which is why I think they're visiting us. But that's a topic for another day. White Boy Wizard said, time for some fishing here on the world famous Snake River. God bless. Okay. Hopefully you're catching something out there, White Boy Wizard. Oh, I see you up there. Getting skunked again.
Yeah, dude. Break out the flyer on the
Ash said Hindu mythology has nukes. Yeah, I have looked into that. That is quite strange. Let's see. Taylor said, so what about the people pre-Jesus? Do they not get saved? I never understood that. Is hell full of cavemen? It's a good point.
Oh yeah, I think I did read about that. Isn't that where he came to Moses or to Abraham? And because I'm more familiar with the New Testament, I know that's like Old Testament. Because I was a lot about that, but like I said, like we talked about how he's out of time. You know, he's out of the time realm. So I feel like once Jesus came, he restored everybody before that. That's what I like to believe. I know that's not the technical term. I know that's not looking into scripture, but that's something I'm also going to look into.
Hey, dude, we're all evolving in our understanding. You know, I don't think that there's me personally, I don't know if there's any one perfect path for everybody to follow. I think that it's perfect the way that the path that we're on already is already paved perfectly. Let's see. White Boy Wizard said, definitely a good chat tonight, boys. I agree. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. And he also said, Libra is an air sign just like Aquarius. Can't tie us down to a damn thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We do have one more thing, and that is, if you're okay with it, Ricky, I always pull one tarot card at the end of every show, and it usually resonates with the message that was kind of being talked about. And very interesting. I actually did a show earlier. I was a guest on Corey. Her channel is called Corey MooFO. It's like her last name is Moo, but she's into UFOs, so she's MooFO, right? She's awesome.
Yeah.
If you're interested in any kind of extraterrestrial, all the orb things that are going on in the night sky all the time, she's on it like flies on shit, dude. Like she's got it all together with all that. But it's so interesting because I pulled the same exact card earlier, and it's so weird. I pulled the Hierophant card, and if you're not familiar with certain, tarot meanings, I can't recite it word for word, so I pull out this magical grimoire of tarot understandings. And it says, the Hierophant is an interpreter of sacred mysteries or esoteric principles, so this card evokes an ongoing quest for knowledge. Much like the High Priestess, the Hierophant is in near constant communication with the divine. The difference is that the High Priestess channels her knowledge through her intuition, while the Hierophant studies and learns by upholding traditions, participating in rituals, and teaching ancient knowledge to others. The Hierophant appears seated on a throne in traditional religious robes, busily sharing his spiritual teachings with the two figures seated before him. The religious iconography, the keys, and his papal staff, hand position, and crosses, to name a few, is symbolic of his purity and devotion to his spirituality. Having strong faith and a set of strict principles to live by, the Hierophant is happiest following a traditional course of study. And then there's a spiritual message here too. It says, you may deepen your spirituality by studying healing modalities or courses in the foundations of spiritual knowledge. You may even teach healing arts or offer spiritual guidance. Be open to a teacher entering your life. This may come in many forms. So I find that very interesting because Corey is also a follower of Jesus. She doesn't call herself religious. She just says, you know, Jesus is basically her homeboy. She's following him. She loves Jesus, that whole thing.
Same.
And you are as well. So I thought that it was very interesting about how there's a spiritual aspect to it and a religious aspect to it in both shows. And that's exactly how both shows eventually transpired. So pretty cool how all that stuff kind of works.
Yeah.
Now,
It's a sign, man. It's cool.
and to all the Christians out there, Ricky, did you hear me calling on Beelzebub before I pulled that card? I just want to clarify.
Who's that? I don't even know what that meant. I'm just following along.
just making sure you know I wasn't like drawing a pentagram or an upside down cross on my chest in order to have that reading. I just want to make sure. I'm like, just because I'm not a practicing religious person does not mean that I'm automatically, you know, a worker of the devil. And I know you know that. Just making a joke. But but
heart posture.
Yes. So, but yeah, look, I appreciate you staying on. I can't believe we actually went as long as we did. I'm sorry if that was too long or too late for you.
I don't even know what time it is.
Yeah, we went.
How long?
We've been going for 2 hours and 16 minutes now.
Oh, wow. That went by pretty quick.
Time flies when you're having fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, look, it was awesome talking to you, and I appreciate your patience and understanding, and in order to be able to have a pleasant conversation, in order to really just try and understand what the fuck's going on here, dude. That's what we're all after. We're all trying to understand what this reality is all about and our place in it, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree, man. Thanks for having me again. Yeah, dude, like I said, I know we linked up sort of not in the most pleasant way. You know, like I said, I apologize. That's not me. I don't tell people you're going to hell. I just feel triggered. That's something personal. That's not on you. But I also feel like you probably made that video, or you probably made it with, you didn't make it with bad intentions. You know, you're probably just saying what you believe, like just like anybody else who believes their own thing, they go and they preach it. So
that's it, man. Hey, look, we're all just trying to figure out what's going on here. And I think that essentially our triggers, I mean, and you're not the only one that was triggered. I was triggered. That's why I made that video in the first place. But like, I feel like our triggers are the teachers in themselves, right? Like if we're not looking into what triggers us, then what triggers us will continue to trigger us, and we'll always just blindly react. And in that, there I think is a lesson to where we can look into why we may feel triggered towards certain people, certain ideologies, certain situations, what have you.
You look into that root, which is your old identity, which is, I believe is, the sinful identity. And once you get redeemed, you become who you're supposed to be. So that's what I live by.
Yes. Well, like I said, man, I appreciate you coming on, and it was a fun time. But look, if Ricky Rivera came here and he taught you anything, it's that you don't know what you don't know. So don't just get weird.